Session Share, the Coaches Podcast. For coaches, by coaches. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Session Share, the Coaches Podcast. My name's Craig Birtwistle, and I'm very excited to have Shaun Green as our guest today. Shaun is a highly respected and influential soccer coach with a global following. His online videos have been viewed by millions of coaches and players worldwide, and he is widely recognized as a leader in the field of online coaching education. With over 35 years of experience as a head coach at NCAA Division One level, Coach Green has extensive background in developing players at all levels. He has trained teams in the USA, Canada, England, Scotland, Puerto Rico, Barbados, and even mentored coaches in India, Nigeria, and Republic of Ireland. It's an impressive list, and Shaun, I'm even more impressive with your dancing that you did during our intro. So, how you doing today, mate?
You know why it's an impressive intro? Is because I wrote it.
Happy days! You're really pulling the
There's
curtain back.
nothing better there's nothing better than writing your own there's nothing better than writing your own intro. Everybody wants to write their own intro. But yeah, it's been a long journey for sure. Been in this game a long time.
That's fantastic. Yeah, my brother actually made the same joke during his speech. They praised me during our wedding speech, and then said, "Hey, sorry, Craig, I can't read your writing." So I'm all for that. So, Shaun, tell me a little bit about your background. What got you all interested in football in the first place?
Well, I'm originally, Craig, from Newcastle, England, and I was brought up in a great working class town of Newcastle, which, is famous for its coal mines and shipbuilding at the time. And the only thing we loved to do was play football on the streets. And just down the road from my house was a famous youth soccer club called Wallsend Boys Club, who have produced probably more professional players than any youth club in the country. And I joined them. I was scouted by Wallsend when I was 11 and got asked to play for Wallsend Boys Club. And I played for them from when I was 11 years of age until I was 18 when I was captain of the club. And some great players there, Alan Shearer, Peter Beardsley, Rob Hindmarsh, Bruce.
Steve Bruce, yeah.
Bruce Bruce was there. Just a lot of great players there. But I knew at age 16 that I was really interested in coaching. I was a motivator on the field. I was a captain, and I wanted to see where it go. And having one of the best coaches on this planet coach me as a youth coach was a great role model for me and a mentor. There's a man called Stan Nixon, who coached 16 years at Newcastle United, and he was at Middlesbrough for 20 years as a coach. And he was my high school PE teacher and my high school coach. And he mentored me. He was like a father to me. And like many mentors, I mean, many people get into professions. The reason they get into a certain professions, Craig, is because somebody in their life was a role model to them or a mentor. And they say to them, man, if you had a good teacher, most people who go into teaching do so because they had a great experience with the teachers they had. And Stan Nixon was just an incredible role model, and he encouraged me to coach. And I started doing my coaching license at 17. You have to be 18 to take it in England. And I took it and passed on my 18th birthday.
Wow.
So I was probably the youngest coach in England to get a coaching license
Fantastic.
at the time. And then the same coach, Stan Nixon, encouraged me to go to America to work at a soccer camp, get some experience. And that had never been really done before in the northeast of England. It's pretty commonplace now, but it was pretty rare back then. We're talking about nearly 50 years ago, 46 years ago maybe. Went to the camp, and the guy who owned the camp was the head coach at Brown University, an Ivy League school in Providence, Rhode Island. And we really hit it off together. He liked my coaching style, my enthusiasm. And then I helped him organize a tour to take Brown to Newcastle for 10 days. And so I organized housing for these people. They stayed with, you can just imagine what these Ivy League students were like, staying in, like, these small houses in Newcastle, England, with working class
Shock to
families
the
and
system.
no showers, some of them, and barely a phone. And the whole town took to them. And they lived in separate houses, and they played about 5, 6 matches there. They got a civic reception from the mayor of Newcastle, and just a bang up great tour. And then, so the head coach at Brown offered me an opportunity to be his assistant coach at age 19 at Brown University. So I quit my job as an engineer and flew over to America, not really knowing anybody, and coached at Brown University for a year. And then while I was there, I was offered a scholarship in West Virginia, a full scholarship to play in college. I attended there for 4 years. And then my senior year in college, spring break, I interviewed for the head coaching job at a Division One program in Connecticut, and they hired me. And so I was there for 35 years as the head coach.
Fantastic stuff.
So to get it, I had great coaches, great club when I was young, and that inspired me. Watching them and the impact they had on young kids really inspired me to be a coach for the rest of my life.
That's amazing. And one of the things that I picked up on that, like the fact that you were an engineer and like into your soccer, into your football a lot. And that brings me to like my next question. Like I'm a big fan of Soccer Coach TV. I've been a subscriber for many years. I got many great ideas from there. And I've seen lots of your other projects as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your passion for this and how Soccer Coach TV got started?
Yeah, you got to go back a couple of decades. Um, in 1997, I started a program, a website called soccerclinics.com. Now, bear in mind that was before Facebook, Google, you name it. I mean, nothing was around there, probably less than 1 million people on the internet back then. It was the first of its kind, the first, if you can imagine, the first ever soccer website for coaching on the internet. And it was launched on February the 6th in 1997. And it was innovative. And basically, my thinking is when the internet started, first days off the ground, I thought, wow, this is going to be a weapon of mass instruction. We can go out and coach. I can go out and coach coaches all over the world. Obviously, the bandwidth wasn't there yet for the quality of the video. So I had to develop graphics, a program to create great graphics. You see graphics now, and I have a program which I designed with a computer engineer over 20 years ago, and it's a 3D program. Still, to me, when you see the graphics, the best there is today. And we created that 20 years ago. And so in on it early, I felt that my biggest reasoning was no matter how good you are as a coach, Craig, you can be the best soccer coach in the world, the best educator in the world, and you want to get a message out. But back in the day, you could only hope for like maybe 100 people showing up for a clinic, right? That's the best you could do. But once the internet came in and the bandwidth was there, and we could get onto the videos and putting videos out there online, now it's a game changer. You can talk to every coach all over the world, and it's amazing the coaches who do watch my video. There's not a continent that's not untouched. The footprint of Soccer Coach TV, the millions and millions of people who've watched those videos that I've created for Soccer Coach TV. Imagine every one of those coaches has an impact on 20 players. So multiply that by the millions of coaches, by all those players. It definitely has a big impact. And I know coaches use my drills all over the world and at every different level. I've seen videos of teams using some of the stuff, which I think is unique the way that I created it. I've seen them copy it. And I've copied their stuff also. But you see my fingerprints on a lot of the content that's out there. And I can tell it Coach TV has been an influence on not just on how they coach, but how they deliver their coaching websites, their content.
So, Sean, you've been doing coach education for many years now. We spoke about it previously about how you've seen the birth of social media and you even started before that. How has social media impacted coach education?
Well, I think that it has certainly enhanced the opportunity for coaches to learn on a much greater scale and have different perspective, different points of views. For example, let's say when I was a young coach and I wanted to learn as much as I possibly can, I had to physically get out on a bus, drive to a practice and watch an older coach and write it down on a little notebook. Or I would spend my Friday evenings, every Friday evening, I would go to the local library and take out as many books as I possibly could about football coaching. And I used to do that regularly every Friday. Now you don't need to do it. You've got some of the best experts and some of the novices right there in your hand on your phone. You could sit on your couch and learn. So it's really brought education as a whole, um, but specifically here with football, right to everybody's doorstep, right to everybody's hand. The education. So the access to information is tremendous. But what I have noticed when the evolution of YouTube, when you see it, not a lot of coaches my age actually get into any kind of really serious content development. And as a reason for that, particularly if you're developing websites and you're developing platforms, a lot of coaches who are older are used to old school kind of technology. They don't have, the maybe the expertise in dealing with writing code or website design or all those kind of things, um, or really a deep understanding of video creation and editing. So as a consequence with that, a lot of the older coaches, I think, have turned off a little bit from social media because they don't understand it to the extent where they wouldn't use it as a business model on their own. They would have to go out and hire a web designer or hire somebody who's skilled in social media. But what you get now is young coaches who are very good. Some of these young coaches who are coming in who do have that skill set of being able to, produce great TikTok videos, um, put fantastic content on Instagram and so forth. Um, I think one of the differences is with the younger coaches, they're not afraid to talk. They're not afraid to put themselves out there. I've noticed a lot of older coaches or experienced coaches. You rarely see them mic'd up on the internet with, doing videos and sessions, because I believe that, you're going to get judged, you're going to get evaluated, people are going to criticize you, people are going to, you know uh, dissect everything that you do. A lot of people are reluctant to put themselves in that position, and but younger what I'm saying is younger coaches do not. So I think it's a great opportunity for these young coaches to reach a worldwide audience. In my instance, now I've got a platform and I get an opportunity I get invited all over the world to coach. As we said before, we went Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, Puerto Rico, Scotland, England, Ireland, but it's been invited all over Africa, India, all these places. That wouldn't have happened without social media. So it's opened opportunities for me, which would never have happened if coaching didn't have this platform to share ideas with other coaches.
I love that, and I couldn't agree more. I feel that, especially young coaches now, want to get out there. They want to get seen. They have the platform to do it. The one thing I was always warned about is the fact that you've got to be a little bit hard skinned. Like, it's very easy to be critical, especially of, say, a session plan. Like, you can look at someone's session plan and find 10 things wrong with it without putting any type of compliment into it. Like, you've been around in the game for many years, just like myself, and but when you first start, you're very critical and you are over accepting of other people's advice. So I feel like you have to kind of navigate the waters at times to make sure you understand the way you learn as a coach by making the mistakes, learning through them, and not what I was always told is never accept criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. And I think that's some strong information that our coaches need to hear.
Yeah, I mean, And most important, what you'll find is that if, let's say, you put a YouTube out there and somebody writes a stupid comment about it, often it is that they've got no subscribers,
Right.
zero subscribers. They just go out and, kind of troll everybody. But that's part and parcel of it. I mean, you can easily switch comments off.
Yeah.
You could do that.
That's
About 10 years ago, I had an incident with my website where I did a session with a team, a local youth team, and one of the kids was a little bit overweight. Well, he was overweight. And great kid, great enthusiasm, but he was not as mobile as the other players. And people started to make, terrible comments about him online, right? And so I had to block them, and I reported them. It seemed like a whole group of young kids were doing it, and I had to block them and I reported them to YouTube. As a consequence of that, though, I lost about a couple of 100,000 subscribers
wow.
because they started me from scratch. I don't know why they did that, but they started me from scratch. But I prefer to screen my comments. I just think it's appropriate, because you just do things like that. But you're always going to put yourself out there, and that's part and parcel of it. But the rewards are much better. The friendships that I've made, Gary, Craig, from Soccer Coach TV all over the world. I get emails every week from coaches. It's been phenomenal. That would have never happened without social media platform. And I think we touched on this the other day, and I think it's worth pointing out to anybody who's watching, is that we talked about the course content that you know coaches learn. Everything about tactics, everything about technique, skill, fitness, etc., etc. But they never teach you about social media, and that's very important if you're a young coach. And I'll tell you why. It's important because if you want to be a professional coach, on that journey, you'll probably have to find different ways to, bring in, have a side hustle, bringing in money, and that could be like a YouTube channel, or it could be selling products online, all different things. Doing a camp, one-on-one coaching, doing a soccer camp. All of those are going to need exposure on social media to promote it. All of those, you may need to develop a website. Maybe you want to create your own website. Like I have 5 websites that I have, which bring in recurring income. But with that in mind, if you are not equipped to learn how to build your own website or edit your own videos, you're going to be a prisoner to these people. So it's crucial that you are, as a coach, be as skilled at social media as you are at teaching players on the field. For me, that you're going to need that at some point in your career as you go along. I think that's important. I was in a podcast one time, Craig, and I predicted that what we're going to see in the future and not too distant future. We currently have directors of coaching like yourself at the club, correct? What we're going to see is directors of online coaching at every club, who's going to be able to deliver coaching sessions online on a Friday night at 8 o'clock, over the winter without you leaving your house. And they're going to be good sessions too. And there's so many topics you could choose from, but have a full-time director of coaching for your club. And it's probably going to be somebody with some experience of doing what you do right now. And it's much, as I said, it's just going to be a no-brainer for me as we go. And this is how we learn. This is how we get our news. This is how we get our information.
This is amazing stuff. And Sean, we're going to take a short break. And would like to talk more about coach education after this short break from Zencaster. Do you have a story to tell that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who are engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at Session Share. Zencaster makes it super easy to produce a high quality broadcast with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, you knows, and 22 other speech patterns. Zencaster makes it super easy to produce a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster. Welcome back. And yes, if you're interested in signing up for your own podcast, we use Zencaster here. And if you do wish to do so, you can find my link in the podcast description, which will help you develop your podcast, but will also help our channel as well. So any help is greatly achieved. So we were just talking to Shaun about coach education. Shaun, we spoke earlier this week off camera, and you had some thoughts on how the governing bodies like the Football Association in England and the USSF in the States are kind of falling a little short of their goals. Could you go into a little bit more detail on this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a discussion that we had a little bit about how we fell short, poorly short, I think, in every international federation in terms of including the important areas of teaching life skills and life lessons to our young athletes as part of the curriculum. You go on a coaching license course and you'll do tactical sessions, technical sessions, you'll do all different kinds of sessions, but they never talk about a holistic approach really to coaching and what the real purpose of coaching is. 99% of the players, even more than that, are not going to be playing professional soccer. And so what are we doing with these kids? We've got an opportunity. There's no better person in a kid's life pretty much than having a coach who there is at a role model. It's somebody that the children respect. And we're missing a great opportunity to really take that area seriously in terms of educate using that platform there that we have to develop these young men and women, these young boys and girls, to be better citizens in the community rather than better football players. If you said to every youth coach, any coach at the beginning of the season, and we're not talking about the professional game right now, we're talking about the majority of players in every township across the country. And if you said to any coach, is it more important for you to develop a better person who's going to be a great person the rest of their lives, or a better soccer player? Which one is the most important if you had to pick one? I think they would say the better person. Everything you've taught them in soccer in terms of technical skills, tactical skills, and all those lessons you've taught them in soccer are a waste of time once they finish playing soccer. They've gone. The only things they'll remember from that soccer experience that will be useful for them is the life skills that you've taught them throughout their career. And so there's so many of them. But I think that we need to really step back a little bit. And when you look at the narrative that clubs use and association use, join our association and your kids are going to be better citizens. They're going to be better boys and girls. How do they do that? Because I've never seen in one curriculum that's been included. And so I think they fell short in that. I think in our national curriculum, when you talk about the 4 pillars of coaching, the technical, physical, mental side of it, there should be a 5th one. And that should be the holistic side of the player, where we develop their skills. Look at this opportunity that we have. And I think as a coach, if you look at it, is the best coaches that I've ever experienced are the ones who I know care about me, who try to develop me as a person, not just a football player. And they've lasted, like Stan Nixon, and we talked about right now. I'm 66, and he was my high school coach, and I'm sitting here having a conversation about this guy nearly 50 years later. Why? I mean, yeah, he was a great tactical, coach, and he knew all his stuff, but he showed so much care in me, and he taught me so much about life, and that stuck with me the rest of my life. And so we have opportunities there, and coaches should embrace it. Why shouldn't they? Like we said, the great role models, these kids look up to them. Close to half the families that the kids are coaching around the world have come from single parent families. So you're also a father figure or a mother figure to some of them. And so you have that chance. And so the challenge is that, I'll make my point again to you, Craig, is this. I haven't met one coach who can answer this question to the standard I'm looking at and say, look, hey, tell me what you think are the top 5 soccer skills that you must teach a player to be a successful soccer player. What are they? And then boom, 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 they would nail them off. Passing, dribbling, shooting, heading, whatever their priorities were, it would take them 3 seconds to seal a 5. Follow-up question would be, what are the 5 top life skills that you must teach as a coach to make sure that your kids successfully navigate adulthood, have a great chance, and to be successful not only in their personal relationships, but in their professional relationships in life. What are they? Crickets. So it's revealing. I mean, and if they do respond, it's often just copying what's on the dressing room wall. Commitment, dedication, teamwork. Now, there's hundreds of life skills. Are they the most important life skills that a kid needs to learn? But the thing is, they never contemplated that question before. I never did. Like I said, I coached college for 35 years, Division One. And every preseason, I would put down my whole season plan, and it would be what my tactics were going to be, my technical work with my players, my fitness levels, everything. Not once on my clipboard did I have a section for what life skill am I going to teach this player this week or this season. And if you stick to 3, 4, 5 in a complete season, you can get it in. The challenge is this. Some of the life skills, well, how do you measure a life skill, whether or not it's appropriate for that age or whether it's just important to teach? I studied for about 2 years, and the metrics I used was dependability. How often are you going to depend on that? Is it going to be once in a while? Is it going to be every single day? For example, number 2 on my list of my top 20 that I come up with was communication, which is a very easy one to teach in football and soccer. You can create a lot of different drills to teach communication. But communication, again, is not just talking. It's 50% talking, 50% listening. And then throw on top of that, another 50% is your body language. There's 150. But you get my point. There's more to just communication.
I get it.
So that's an easy topic. I'm sure you've done. Give me an example, Craig, when you're working with players. When you talk about communication to a team, what's the best communication drill that you've done with your players?
Best communication drill. I've done it many times where like you have to wear a hat instead of a pinny, for example. So like then heads have to go up. You have to get eye contact. So it's not just now it's visual demands as well as verbal demands and so on.
Yeah.
I've done it where you're not allowed to say a word so they can see the value of being able to talk and everything like that. And then you get players that like think smart and start clapping their hands and stuff like that in order to be noticed and everything. So it does require some thinking out of the box type things to force these players into these like uncomfortable situations. What sort of exercises have you done for that?
Well, one of my favorites for particularly for communication is that if we're in the locker room or we're sitting on the bleachers before practice, before they get there, I write all the names on a piece of paper, like rip them up to have their names on it, and I put it in a hat. And so I'll go around with a cap, and then I'll say, pick a name out. Don't tell anybody who it is, right? So obviously, if they pick their own name out, they throw it back in. But so everybody's got a name of a player on a team, and their job is to motivate that player. That player doesn't know who it is. So in that practice, so let's say I picked your name out in training, right? So my job would be to encourage you and communicate with you the entire practice. So if you did something, well, Craig, brilliant stuff, son, that's fantastic. Keep going. I'd be talking to you, encouraging you. Craig, get your head up. It's all right. Forget it. Next shot's going to go in the back. And I'd be encouraging you. Hey, keep it calm down. Don't lose your cool. I'd be transmitting all this information to you in the game, the ability to communicate. At the end of practice, okay, again, nobody's revealed with their names who they are, right? So at the end of practice, I would go along the line. I'd say, all right, Craig, who was your motivator? You should be able to pick him out or her out instantly if they did their job, right?
True,
Instantly. Yeah. No. It's amazing how many kids pick the wrong person or pick it out, Now, 2 things are going on here, right? You go to the next guy. All right, David, who was your? Oh, yeah, it was Johnny. I heard him. What did he say to you, right? And so he'll repeat back what he said to him, And the next one, I thought it was somebody else, but It's revealing. It's not 100. You'd think an exercise like that, it would be 100%. Everybody would know, and they don't. Try that with your team. I call
I
that the
will.
buddy system. But here's the problem too, which you've got to be aware of, and that's why I film everything, is because, Craig, you might have been doing a brilliant job of doing what I've asked you to do, was communicate, right, to Freddie. Every time you were talking, but he didn't identify you. Maybe it wasn't your fault. Maybe this guy just doesn't listen on the field.
Maybe.
Right? So it's an example of, you've also got to be receptive to people talking around you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people switch off and go into their own game or shut down. I don't want to be told anything by anybody else. It doesn't have to be, the communication doesn't have to be a flattering thing every time. It could be a demanding thing from a teammate. But it's you're really trying to develop influences on the team, people who will influence others around them to better levels of football. But that's just one. There's so many different. But communication is an easier topic to coach in football. But what we fail to do, every one of us, we fail to do this as a coach. We stop it too short, the conversation. I'll give you an example what I mean. You got your goalkeeper in goal. There's a free kick against you, and you're practicing it in training. Okay, 5-man wall. The keeper's in there, lined up the wall, and somebody crosses the ball or whatever. The ball comes in. The keeper doesn't call for the ball, and you stop the practice. Hey, Craig, you got to talk more for the ball, right? You got to communicate. You got to communicate how many players you want in the wall. You got to communicate if it's your pass. Do you understand the importance of that? Yeah, coach. Yeah, I got it. I got it this time. And we leave it there. Why it's important. With giving them a lesson of why it's important to communicate on a soccer field. But you've also got to tell them why it's important to coach and communicate in life. It doesn't end on a football field. And so why is it important? And that doesn't have to be done right there, that split second. But if that theme's communication, I'm going to wrap it up with a 5-minute talk about, guys, we've been talking about communication on the field and why is it important to communicate on the field? And they'll give me input. But we need this, we need that. And at the end of that, I'll say, okay, well, you're going to need these communication skills in every personal relationship you'll ever have. Because if you can't talk with your wife or your girlfriend or your partner, that relationship is not going to last long. And sometimes you're going to have some tough conversations with your partner in your life. They're not all going to be rosy. And sometimes you've got to listen. You have to, it's both ways. Professional job. If you can't communicate effectively, Craig, when you go for an interview and there's 5 other people sitting on the chairs waiting to get interviewed too, if you can't effectively communicate to that person what your values are, what your core skills are, what you can bring to it, if you can't do that, you're not getting that job. That's why it's important for you to call on a corner kick, not just for this game. So we got to relate those stuff to the big picture, okay? And communications are just one. I'll give you an example in trust. The hardest thing to teach life skills in football is this. It demands creativity from coaches to incorporate it into their training sessions. They think that if a player's late for practice and they ream that player out in front of the team for being 20 minutes late, maybe he missed the bus or he couldn't get a ride or whatever. A lot of time, they ream them out. They think, man, we've taught them a lesson on punctuality, on discipline. It's not. It's like saying kick the ball once and I've shown you how to volley it. It's got to be repetitive. It's got to be ingrained into it. I'll give you an example about trust, which is great. A great life skill. Is it a skill? For sure, it's a skill. And it's something you got to work on. Trust is something you have to work on earning every single day. Trust is the hardest thing to earn. And you have to earn it over and over and over again. It's not just done with one good deed. But again, trust is the easiest thing to lose, right? And so the exercise we did with my players was we had... I got these training shirts made and I had the letters BTL on the back on it. I got it printed. And that means something very important to me, BTL. And it's a mantra that I live by. And I had my team, it was first meeting with this team when we played in a tournament, and I took them out the box. I said, guys, I got new practice shirts for you. And it's got BTL on the back. I says, I'm going to give you a new shirt for practice. You can wear it for warm-ups in the games. We can wear it in training. But the only condition is this. I'm going to tell you what BTL means, but you can't tell anybody in your life other than who's in this room. That's it. If you can't accept those conditions, then don't take the shirt. It's fine. Walk out now. They're all in. The whole team's all in. Promise we'll not tell anybody. We're the only ones, our team. The manager was there, assistant coach. They got one too. Everybody. So I told them what it meant. Okay. Do you want to know what it means?
I don't know. Do you want to tell us? I don't want to break anyone's trust.
I was going to say, I can't tell you anyway. I'm spoiling the secret.
I kind of fell for that one.
But listen, so we all went out and we had warming up, and their parents said, look, what the hell's BTL mean? You know, what's that BTL mean? I said, look, I don't care if it's your girlfriend. I don't care if it's your dad, your mom, your auntie, your grandma, whatever, you tell nobody. And I explained to them, I said, why is that important? Why is trust important? Again, it goes back to, let's say you're a young guy and you're in a relationship with a girl and you break up and everything, but she's revealed stuff to you. Oh, right? And often people, when they're vulnerable, they reveal stuff to you when they're vulnerable, when they're feeling hurt, when they're feeling sad, when they're feeling depressed, whatever. If you go out and share that on Facebook because you broke up and then you know, and she said these things with trust to you, what kind of man are you? And so the thing is that can you keep a secret? Can you keep that trust? So these are all every single week. We will have one life lesson that we'll focus on every single week. And we'll try and reinforce that. Every teachable moment where we see situations, we'll reinforce that. But Craig, it's planned. I think about it a lot before I go to training. When I plan my practice plan takes me about 2 hours every time my planning is much bigger than my actual sessions. And so I'll go out there and I'll say, okay, how can we talk about this topic particularly? You know, whether it's servant leadership, whether it's self-care, whether it's empathy, trust, whether it's the number one on this life skill chart, the top 20, which we came up with out of the hundreds, after even asking tons and tons of players. The number one concern, and again, I work in an academic environment at a university, so I get a chance to listen and talk with a lot of young athletes and young students at that age, was finding their purpose in life. And can you call it a skill? Yeah, you can, because I think there's methodology to it, definitely. You can come up with a roadmap to find your purpose in life. There's no guarantees, but at least it's a roadmap to put you in a certain direction. But you need people around you, and your coach as an influencer can help you with that. It doesn't have to be all about football. I mean, great, you've taught this player how to, check his shoulder to create space or to chip a ball, 60 yards. That's great. It's useful when he's playing, but the moment he stops, that chip pass is no good. That glance over the shoulder is no good. You give him stuff that will stay with him the rest of their life. And it's a big challenge because it's a huge part of, I think, of our national curriculum that we've neglected. We haven't even considered as an important topic area. We develop all these great drills for skills. We could develop drills for life lessons. Why not? We got a lot of creative coaches out there who could bring it. But finding your purpose in life, Craig, I mean, do you know what yours is?
I love coach education. It's definitely one of the biggest things. That's why the birth child of this podcast started and the Session Share YouTube channel, just because that really, really helps me in life when I go to bed happy, trying to do the old analogy of teach a man to fish. So it's like trying to reach as many people as possible now. So yeah, I would say that was my passion.
Who inspired you?
I've had many people inspire me, lots of coaches over the time, too many to name, a few that like really stand out though, that help drive me in the
Give me
direction I
one name.
was.
Give me
Steve
one
Spooner.
name.
Steve
What's
Spooner
his
was
first name?
Steve.
What was it about Steve Spooner as a coach that you're actually talking about him now in public?
It's
That he's
exactly
had
what
that
you
impact
said.
on you?
It's not about the fact that he taught me how to ping a pass. It's not about like controlling the ball off a cross or anything like that. It's because he genuinely cared. He would pull you aside when he thought you were down. If it was something, he kind of had an understanding. Like I had him for 3-4 years, something along those lines, and he understood like when someone had a bad day or he saw that like we were down about having a test coming up or something like that, always found a way to kind of like resonate with you and understand. So 100% agree with you. It wasn't about teaching us the tactics, the formations, the systems, the styles of play, anything along those lines. It was treating you as a person.
Right. And I mean, that goes to say, I mean, it's like how many players, how many people are, 20 years from now are going to talk about you as a coach? Say, oh yeah, he's a great guy. He taught me how to chip a ball. I mean, the little things, but they are. It's what we said before. I mean, you're influencing people. You're in a great position. He was in a great position, and he had a choice as a coach. He could have been one of those tactical coaches who just go in all business, or show that he's there to care. I mean, players don't care how much you know as a coach, like we said, until they know how much you care as a coach. But I think we have to rethink about the vast majority of young players playing, why they quit. What are we actually teaching them? 1 second here. Craig, I have to get up for 1 second. I'm sorry. I got to plug my charger in here.
No problem, pal.
You can play a commercial if you want. I'll be right back. I just got to plug it in.
And on that note, we'll play a commercial for Session Share. Do you need fresh ideas for your football, soccer training? Then follow Session Share on YouTube and X. Our handles can be found in the show description. Session Share, for coaches, by coaches. Welcome back.
Rick, just to wrap that up a little bit about teaching life lessons and life skills, there's a big difference between life skills and a life lesson, right? A life skill is something you can work on incrementally to get better and better and better, right? A life lesson might be something spontaneous, like we said, it could be, hey, Craig, lend me $50. I'll give you it back tomorrow. And you never see me again. I mean, you probably learned something from that. You know what I mean? It's so I would just encourage, if the coach is watching this, I would encourage them to think a bit about that. Because if I said to you, Craig, hey, listen, I need you to come up with 3 great dribbling drills for me, you wouldn't have a problem being able to do that. But I'm going to challenge you as a coach. So, Craig, I'm going to ask you to do this. Come up with 5, just for the entire season. That's it. 5 new drills you could do specifically. Each one of them has to teach a different life skill.
Love that, and I will take the challenge.
Trust, communication, specifically about that. But it's always got to end with how it impacts you as an adult. Why does trust impact? Why is it important we trust each other's teammates? And I'm going to give you examples here. But as you get older, why do you think trust is important? Why do you think communication is important? Why do you think empathy is important? All these different kind of things. Because listen, we're not developing pro players. We're developing business owners. We're developing bankers. We're developing teachers, right? These are the people who are developing on these teams, not professional soccer players. This is our community. We're investing in that. Every time you invest in a kid, you're investing in your club. It's great for the stakeholders of the club to have that narrative. Who doesn't want a narrative of that? We're taking it seriously. We're not just taking our football skills, but we're going to make. And which parent wouldn't want to sign up their kid to join a team where the coach doesn't help them get to be better men and better women? Not just talk about it, not just put it in their program or on their website, but actually you see them do it in training. Yeah, there's lots of things that through the osmosis of football in terms of discipline, in terms of the social interaction aspect of football are there. but we can evolve it to a totally different level if we take it serious. I have a website called soccerteambuilding.com. It has all the videos of me teaching life skills, massive section on how to teach life skills, what they are, not just me talking about it, but me actually doing the sessions, communication sessions, stuff like this on the field with the players. Exercise and Trust is all there, and we had these t-shirts and all that kind of stuff so you can see firsthand. And all the building blocks of team building. It's worth looking at as a coach to take a look at it if you're looking for ideas. But I'm just one person. You can get ideas from many, many people.
It's fantastic. And one thing that I've really loved about our conversation here, Shaun, is the fact that you're very much an out the box thinker, but with strategic targets in mind. So, like in the beginning, like you obviously your background with engineering helped with your soccer background into how to build this program before these programs even existed, and then like what we just spoke about, like the life lessons. It's not something that the average coach, if you will, thinks about, but I'm sure a lot of people after this podcast will be thinking very closely about it. One of the other things we spoke about before was when we were speaking about the life lessons, you said one of the big lessons that you learned was about meditation and how that helped you. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you found that breakthrough and how you feel it can encourage players and coaches to do this as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anxiety and depression is a huge issue in our society, in every country, let alone athletics in terms of, I think our kids there's a lot of pressure on our kids. They deal with a lot of different things. Craig, all the teams you coached in your career, I guarantee you there's kids on that team, as good as you can be as a coach. There's kids on that team that you have no idea what they're going through. None. It's like some of the most great. I've met some great people in my life, Craig, who took their own lives, and there was no signs of it. No signs. We had a guy who was a referee, who was refereeing that game 2 weeks beforehand. He's well-known referee for many, many decades, and he committed suicide. You would never know having a conversation with the guy. And I'm just saying, you never know as a coach what's going on in people's personal lives, and so I think it's just, I don't know, it's just important. What was the question again? What was the first question he asked?
Fine. Yeah, we talked about meditation and how you feel
All
that
right,
could help.
meditation. Yeah. So listen, I went to a liquor store. I used to get my wine there. I don't really drink anymore, but I used to get my wine there. And this guy from Pakistan we were talking about meditation because I was trying to meditate over COVID. And he recommended this place called Vipassana. And it's an international organization. And it's for meditation and for wellness. And he says, you should go to this institute. It's 10 days away. And he says, it'll be a great experience. So I applied for it. It's free, by the way. You don't pay a penny, right? So I was accepted at the last second on a waiting list. They called me up and said, hey, we got a spot. Do you want to come? It was like a day before. I says, yeah. I didn't have to throw anything in my bag, really. I put sweatpants on, took 2 T-shirts with me because when you're there, it's basically you're down to the bare minimum, right? When monks, right, first arrive at a monastery, they rip them apart. They take away all their personal belongings. They have none. They're not allowed to keep anything. And they get a raggy old robe, right? They get a little linen robe and a pair of sandals. That's it. And they do that because they want you to be humble. They want you to be, a sense of all these worldly possessions really don't mean a thing. And they take that away from you. So we're down. You can't wear any designer stuff. So we're on their bare minimum there. But anyway, the concept is this. We spent 10 days. We arrived there. You hand in your phone. There's 50 people, 25 women, 25 men, 2 gurus, one for the women, one for the men. We're just it looks like a small college way out in the wilderness in Massachusetts. And ages from, guys who are in the 70s down to 21-year-olds from all different professions, students, engineers, millionaires, you name it. And the gong would go off at 5 a.m. They said we have no phone. We're not allowed to talk to anybody. You're not allowed to look at anybody. No eye contact for 10 days. And we would meditate for 10 hours a day straight. Well, like a 10-minute break in between each hour. And it was one of the most challenging things I've ever experienced. The first 3 days were, how do you meditate? The technique of meditation. So they taught us a technique of doing that, our breathing skills. And so you'd sit there for an hour, work on your breathing skills, meditate, take a break, do it again, and do it again, and do it again. And I can get into a meditative state pretty quickly now. But before then, before I went this course, I would try to meditate, but just end up falling asleep. And but the advantages of meditation is great. I mean, all your top athletes, all of them, Ronaldo, all of them master technique to take the pressure off them. But the thing is that when you're there, what do you think about for 100 hours? And obviously, you're reflecting back on your own life, the decisions you've made in your own life, the scenarios. It's like a movie. You play it all back. And a lot of people in there, I don't have any skeletons really, but a lot of people in there pull back the Band-Aids and everything. But it's a really interesting challenge for you when you come out of there. The guy told me I'd feel a lot lighter, and I didn't know what he meant. I did know what he meant when I came out. You really learn to get in a state of being in the moment. It's really being in that moment. It sounds so cliche, but when you are in that moment and you're totally focused just in the present there, it's so calming, it's so relieving. And why I think meditation should be a part of every coach's toolbox. Every team I coach, I teach how to meditate. Because think of it this way. These kids are going through struggles off the field. And they need to decompress, or at least have an option if they want to decompress. When your kids come home from tournaments that didn't play very well, or they're upset at whatever's happening, how do they decompress? Teams at the end of practice will have a cool down, a physical cool down to cool down the muscles. But I never see a coach having a mental cool down with the team to decompress. What tools are you giving your players to go home to be able to resolve those issues and get in a calm state and relaxed and be peaceful? And so, yeah, meditation is huge. And you know what? It doesn't cost a penny. No equipment. Anybody can do it. Any age you could do it. And I would encourage it to anybody. If you're looking Vipassana, I mean, when you're there, you eat differently. It's just an amazing experience. What I learned there was one of the big things was not to judge people, just observe. And we tend to do that. We tend to judge people, but there when you can't talk with anybody or you're just observing people. And when you get to meet them, they're totally different from what you would have if you did judge them, what they look like. But I would definitely, it's something that obviously you're not going to do in training every day. You're not going to sit, and the guys are going to meditate for 15 minutes. But what you do, you teach them, and it's very easy. The videos are on my website, on Soccer Coach TV. You can see how I teach them. There's about 4 or 5, and actually there's 2 videos about that whole thing when I was trying to be a monk for 10 days. You see the whole thing, the experience. You'll see the facility. You'll see inside it and everything there. So check it out on Soccer Coach TV. But at bare minimum, what you've done, you've equipped them as a coach. Most of them may not, act on it. But if you're impacting 3 or 4 of your players who can get into meditating and to learn that skill, it can help them tremendously. You got your exams coming up, they're stressing out, how they're dealing with it. If they can learn to meditate, I think it's just another skill that you can add as a soccer coach that I think will benefit everybody, including the coaches. You should be meditating.
I think I will. I'm going to try it at least. I'm a very open person that will try everything once, basically, to try and benefit me as we've mentioned today, as a person, let alone a coach. So Shaun,
I would really consider, Craig, to go on that course. Like I said, it's free. You know, you give a donation if you want, if you feel that it's benefited you. But there's a lot of famous people too take this thing. I mean, so in Colombia, they incorporate Vipassana in the prisons, in the prison cells. They have Vipassana courses there where it's really helped the prisoners in there to meditate, less stress, everything. I believe the violence in that prison went down tremendously once I started putting
interesting.
there. But I challenge you to go on the course. Check it out. You got no excuse. It doesn't cost a penny, son.
You've really put me on the spot in the middle of the podcast right there. Yeah.
Well, I told you the thing was, my mistake was I announced it before I went on social media. I was
Had to
going to do this, and so there was just a melee of like text and comments. You'll be back in 2 days. You won't be able to get off your phone, and there was tons and tons of comments. I said, "No way, I can let them win." So yeah, I'm glad I did stay though. It was absolutely great.
That's that competitive person in you again. I love that. That's great. Shaun, this has been fantastic, and I honestly could go all night. But I would like to leave one final question, and I like to ask all our guests this, as it leaves us knowing the person as much as the coach. Although you've kind of an open book, you've told us everything and everything today, which I love. So, Shaun, what's your favorite moment in sports? It can be anything as a player, a fan, or a coach.
Wow, my favorite moment. Honestly, I've been blessed. I've had so many different memories. It's not just about winning things. It's some of my favorite moments have been recently, over the last few years. Really traveling the world, coaching. It's spending time in Puerto Rico, in Ponce, coaching with Tico Lopez. He's a fan of Soccer Coach TV. He invited me out to Puerto Rico. I'd been talking for about 4 or 5 years, and we flew out there. Hadn't met him before. Such a great guy. I mean, he was such a great host. Working with his players there on the worst field I've ever seen on this planet. It was just dirt with rocks, and we worked for 5 nights, and it was like 85 degrees and dust. It was a dust bowl, but we had they wouldn't stop. At the end of the practice, they wanted to keep playing and playing and playing, and it's just the appetite of these kids playing in that environment and the enthusiasm of this coach, Tico Lopez. It was one of the most memorable things. We complain about all kinds of things here. We got the best facilities in the world in the US. And when you think about around the world, what people have to work with, they don't have what we have to work with. A lot of them, some countries do. But, in Puerto Rico, we had a blast in Aruba coaching down there when we went down with and did some clinics for the Aruba Soccer Federation, and the director of coaching there for the whole country met us. And they put us in a 5-star luxury hotel. We get to this camp of these kids, and we didn't even know it, but they made soccer uniforms with Soccer Coach TV. I mean, real nice jerseys with Soccer Coach TV jerseys and shorts and kit, and they were fantastic kids. And it goes on and on. Barbados. I mean, I've coached there many, many times. Barbados. I love Barbados. It's a great country. I've worked with national team players, with kids who are underprivileged there, and some poor facilities, and the national stadium. It's great, but the vibe down there is fantastic. I got married there 2 years ago on a beach down there in Barbados. So
Wow, awesome.
I have a great love for the country there. But yeah, I would say traveling for me. I could go on and on about the countries and the people I've met. And for me, coaching's been a vehicle to that. And, spreading soccer coaching and my belief in how it should be taught, and to love the game and to enjoy it, and to not take yourself too seriously as a coach. We're all not as good as we think we are. We've all got mistakes. We've all got bad. I'm not the best coach in the world, not even close to it, but people seem to like my style of coaching. I try to be upbeat. I'm definitely motivational. And if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. I don't care what team, whether it's a pro team or an amateur team or a kids team. I love to have fun on the field every time we go to train. And hard work can be fun if it's done right. Doesn't mean if you're having fun, you're not doing hard work. You can do a lot of hard work and it can be fun at the same time. So,
could not agree more, Shaun. Thank you so much for your time. I've had so much
yeah.
fun, and I really believe our listeners will find this conversation extremely beneficial. With that being said, Shaun, if it's okay with you, I'm going to put your details in our podcast description so people can follow you on Soccer Coach TV, Facebook, and all that jazz. Sound good?
Yeah. If they just type in Soccer Coach TV on TikTok, or Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all those social media networks, they'll find us.
Fantastic.
And if you're a soccer coach watching here and you'd like to connect with me, my email is producer@soccercoachtv.com. So if you've got any questions, you want to reach out, if you're interested in us visiting your town and coming shooting some footage for Soccer Coach TV and coaching your team, let us know. Craig, thanks for your hospitality. I love your show too, and that's why I wanted to be on it. Before we even invite, I'd watched you on the with Tom from Japan, and I thought it was a great show. And I said, man, I got to get on there and everything. You got to clean up your notice board in the back of your background there, though. What's that? Your is that your grocery list you got back there
You'd
pinned
think
up
so,
on?
wouldn't you? Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Oh,
I got to call the club, man. You got to stop pulling the influence and start getting a better backdrop from the club, man. You got an important position in the club there. You're the director. You got to get a director's couch back there.
with guests like you, Shaun, soon I'll be able to afford it. So I totally thank you very much, mate. Well,
Yeah.
that's all about the time we have for this episode of Session Share, the Coaches Podcast. Thank you again to Shaun Green for joining us. Be sure to get in touch across all our socials to offer your opinions on all that we've discussed today. You can find the social media platforms in our podcast description. This has been Session Share, the Coaches Podcast. Thank you for listening, and thank you for coaching the beautiful game. Session Share, the Coaches Podcast. For coaches, by coaches.